You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 420 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
Today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Dean Peters, and if you want to hear the message of how medical miracles are chiropractic normals, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today it's episode 420, Dr. Dean Peters. I'm really stoked to have this opportunity to interview him today. I've seen his journey for a couple years now. We first met at California Jam. We were 3 rows back. And I high-fived him and hugged him, and I told him he'd never walk alone. And here we are today. It's been a long time coming. And before we jump into episode 420, I'm going to tell everybody why we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle. Well, we do protect freedom of speech. Health freedom is so important to us. And that's why we do what we do. We interview chiropractors, and we tell their stories. And we could tell the story 10 times a day, and it wouldn't be enough. And secondly, we protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go do your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. You're going to learn so much about chiropractic. You'll enjoy our show a whole lot more. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. And we believe that when a person gets adjusted, it connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Dean Peters, welcome to the show. Let's hustle.
Woo! Thanks, brother. What a great intro, man. I love how on fire you are about chiropractic. I wish more chiropractors were as on fire as you are about chiropractic.
Well, it just takes one person. One person can change the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I'm glad to be here, bro. And, I'll never forget first meeting you at Cal Jam. That was an epic experience for me. First time in California, actually. And, dude, it was a pleasure to be enjoyed with you, brother. So, it's been a hell of a journey. That was like, what, 5 years ago now?
Yeah, with Chiro Hustle just turned 5.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah. So your story, I think, is going to help a lot of people. I know that you have a lot of eyes, ears, and hearts on what you do, and a lot of people are rooting for you. And I know you've had a long time coming to become DC. And tell us your story, man. I've never really understood your chiropractic story, and I never asked you, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested to hear this because you've had a long path to get where you are today.
Well, it's a pretty wild story, man. And so it's actually hard to tell this story in a short period of time. So I'm glad we're camping out here on it. So I'll try not to spend too much time, but long story short, don't all long story short start out that way. Long story short, prepare yourself. Here we go. So, my uncle is a chiropractor. And so when I was young, I always wanted to be like Uncle Dave. He was living the life. He hit the Mercedes 80s, doing really well. And I'm just like, man, I want to be like Uncle Dave. What does he do? He's a chiropractor. Yeah, I want to be a chiropractor, right? And, he just was living life to the fullest, and it still does. And, when I was 10, 12 years old, it was kind of a quick flash in the pan thought, and then it fizzled. And, I didn't really think about becoming a chiropractor until I got to experience chiropractic at a pretty heavy level. When I was 22, I was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I had just had my first daughter. She was only about 2 months old, and I decided to take up kiteboarding. So I don't know if you know what kiteboarding is, but it's basically like wakeboarding, but not behind a boat, but you're flying a big kite in the sky. So this big kite is powering you, and you're harnessed in. So wherever that kite is going, you're going with it. And so took lessons. You know, my instructor was like, Dean, you're like the best ever, bro. You know, so my head is like, yeah, I got this, man. Like, I'm going to kill it. So I ended up buying this big kite, probably bigger than I should have. And I went to the beach to go practice some what they call body drags, where you don't have the board, you're just practicing flying the kite and your body drags in the water. So I find myself oriented in completely wrong direction. I launched the kite directly into the wind like an idiot. You know, it's like rule number one, like you don't launch the kite directly into the wind, but I was just so pumped. I was like, oh man, I got to get this cranking, right? So immediately the kite takes off. So my feet are on the, you know, I'm on the water's edge and the sand, and the kite immediately goes inland and it drags me, gosh, I don't know, 50 feet maybe. And then it lofts me up. So my feet are dangling. And then the kite flops over an electrical wire. And so my feet, I then land on the dune. So I'm like, I went from the water's edge to the dune in a heartbeat, got lofted up, land on the dune, and now I'm connected to this kite that is flopped over an electrical wire. And I'm holy crapping myself, right? I'm like, holy shenanigans, what's happening, right? Trying to get this thing off my harness. Couldn't think fast enough. So then the wind starts picking up on the kite again, and I just go into ham sandwich mode. I'm freaking out. I'm pulling on the bar, and as I pull on the bar, it powers up the kite, puts even more wind in the kite, and it lifts me up, and the weight of my body on the kite strings that was draped over the electrical wire snaps the electrical wire, runs across my bare chest. Did not get zapped, thank God. But I did get drugged across this nasty, broken up concrete parking lot, probably about a good 200 yards until finally my kite hit a house across the street. At this point, there's kite lines all over the place. There's a downed electrical wire, and somehow I'm here breathing, right? And I'm just like, holy smokes. And I hit my head on a telephone pole in the meantime. So I was in some immense pain. The worst pain I definitely have ever experienced in my life. Both my shoulders I thought were dislocated, and I had pretty sure I'd broken my nose on that telephone pole. And you know, some guy came along and he's like, hey man, you need help, and he helps me pack up this kite in my car. And you know, I get out of there and I'm like, holy smokes, man, like I don't know if I want to go to the hospital. I don't have health insurance, and who knows what kind of bill this is going to be. And so I'm racking my mind as I'm going home. And I had met this chiropractor at the gym 2 weeks before this accident. His name is Dr. Dwyer Scott in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So call this guy up because we exchanged numbers. You know, we were supposed to go out and have some drinks at some point. And so I had his number, and we had never hung out. And I'd call him up. I'm like, hey, Dwyer, it's Dean from the gym. He's like, hey, what's up, bro? I'm like, hey, you're a chiropractor, right? He goes, yeah, man, what's up? You know, he's like, what'd you do, right? And I'm like, I think I dislocated my shoulders. Could you pop them back into place for me? He's like, bro, if they're dislocated, we'll have to probably take you to the hospital. But if not, let me just adjust you. I was like, awesome, sounds good to me. Turns out this guy lives like 10 houses away from me. Comes, brings his portable chiropractic table to my house. Does some orthopedic exams, muscle testing, etc. He's like, bro, you're good. Like you don't have dislocated shoulders, but you're pretty jacked up, man. And you need to get adjusted. And let me tell you, you are going to heal so fast. You're going to heal so fast. Almost like in a creepy way. I'm like, all right, dude, I appreciate it. This is all right. Thanks. You know what I mean? But I was so grateful that he was about to adjust me. So now I'm that creep telling people like, oh, you're going to heal so fast. Right. So what happens is he brings his portable chiropractic table over to my house almost every single day for like 3 weeks. He's adjusting my neck, my back, my hips, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists, my knees, my ankles, everything. And I'm like, dude, I didn't know you knew how to do all this stuff. He's like, yeah, man, I'm a chiropractor. I'll adjust every bone in your body 3 different ways, you know? I'm just like, all right, dude. And still, he's like, man, you're going to heal so fast. This is going to be phenomenal for you. And so, eventually he's like, all right, dude, come on by the office. Let's get x-rays on you. You can move around now, because I was bedridden for a week. So 3 months goes by of consistent chiropractic care. Now, mind you, I'm 22 years old, been lifting weights for 9 years at this point. I get back in the gym after 3 months of chiropractic care, And all of a sudden, I'm doing overhead presses heavier than I've ever done before in my life, like way heavier. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? This is the only thing that's changed is chiropractic. I'm like, this chiropractic stuff is legit, right? So then, and I continue to get adjusted, once, maybe twice a week at this point. And so I remember filling out a survey at the desk, and his chiropractic assistant, Andrea, she was phenomenal. She's like, it looks like you've checked off that you have asthma and allergies, Dean. This is going to be so good for your asthma and allergies. And I'm like, this chick is crazy, And then she kept on saying it every time I come in to get adjusted until finally, so now Dr. Dwyer and I, we become really good friends, and we're still really great friends to this day. He's like a brother to me. I get to talk to him, and I'm like, hey, dude, like, how's this going to help with my asthma and my allergies, right? And so he breaks out the Merrick chart. He's like, man, remember what your x-rays look like? He goes, this is where the pressure is. Think about all the pressure that's on the heart and your lungs. These are the pressure. This is where the pressure on your mucous membrane and your nose and sinuses. What do you think is going to happen when we continually get the pressure off the nerves that are controlling your cardiovascular system, that are controlling this, that are controlling? And like in that moment, I had this epiphany, like, oh, okay, like that. It's not like airy fairy, like that makes sense, right? Like mechanically, get the pressure off the nerve, brain to body connection, like, okay, got it. But still, I didn't really believe it was going to happen for me, right? So fast forward another 3 months. So 6 months after my kiteboarding accident, I'll never forget, it was like the worst pollen day of the year in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My white car was yellow with pollen, and I'm outside, and I'm like sniffing the roof of my car like a psycho. And I'm like, this cannot be pollen. Like I would normally be sneezing 1,000 times. And so I remember going to the office, and I'm like, dude, you see the pollen tornadoes happening outside? I'm like, I'm not sneezing. Like, this is crazy. He goes, yeah, I expected that to happen. I told you. Like just very stoic, right? And I was kind of like freaking out. I was pumped up about it because my whole life I've been dealing with asthma and allergies. And so I'm like, no, man, this is a flipping miracle. You don't understand. Like, this has never happened. And this is the moment that like he grasped my attention. He goes, Dean, medical miracles are chiropractic normals. We expect your body to heal and function the way God designed your body to heal and function. And when you remove the interference, that's exactly what happens. And so in that moment, I'm just like, whew, that was some powerful stuff, right? And so I started working for him and started sending people into his office, and I was doing spinal screenings just like you're so amazing at. And eventually he's like, man, you need to go become the doc. And I'm like, no, man, I can't do that. I got 3 kids. There's no way. Like I suck at school, and all the excuses. And so finally he decided to literally close his office down one day, went and got my transcripts from a local university, and we drove to Atlanta from Myrtle Beach so I could register for undergrad. And that was late 2013. And I graduated 2 years ago now. And man, I'll just never forget that, and just how important it is to have somebody believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And he's that man for me. So, I owe a lot of that to him. He's a stellar dude and an amazing doctor. So that's my chiropractic story, brother.
I love it. I love it so much. And I think that there's so much ahead of you because of what this story means. And, BJ Palmer always says, you never know how far reaching something you say or do today will have the impact on millions of lives tomorrow. And I can't believe I can remember that, number one. But it's one of those things that after you start getting dipped so frequently in chiropractic philosophy, that it just becomes a part of your vernacular.
Yes.
And chiropractic gives you life to your years and adds years to your life.
Yep.
That's what I see in you, is it added years to your life.
I appreciate that. Yeah, 100%.
And it helped pull you out of something where you were, number one, of fear. You're afraid. You're afraid that there wasn't a solution for you. You were afraid of even going to like the medical mafia.
Yep.
Like, I don't have insurance. What are they going to do? How much are they going to charge me ransom to go see them?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what is this going to do to my my financials? And I think that you're right at the precipice of what most people have fear of. Like, how am I going to go there? Number one, how am I going to afford it? Number two, and what are they going to do? And that's really it. Is I think, and when I worked in a clinic for 6 years, we took a gal into X-ray her. She fainted. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, it's called white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have that with all medical practitioners except for chiropractors. Like, I don't want to see any of them.
Yeah.
I don't faint.
Yeah.
But I don't have a whole lot of faith in their systems. And that's why, when I was 30 years old, I really dedicated my life and interest to supporting this beautiful profession of chiropractic. I didn't know where my journey was going to go, just like yours. I didn't know that me working as a traction technician inside of a chiropractic office would lead me to become one of the most prolific chiropractic storytellers that's ever existed.
Amen, bro.
But that's the power of starting somewhere. And that Dr. Dwyer, he saved your life, bro.
100%.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle. Yeah.
Divine appointment.
Medical miracles are chiropractic normals.
Yeah.
I love that.
And there's no accidents, right? Like there's never any real accidents, right? And if you look, and maybe somebody who's listening to this right now is maybe going through a horrific time, maybe physically, maybe mentally. And all I remember is in that moment, that was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And now when I look back at that horrific accident, that is hands down the most beautiful accident that's ever happened to me, because it's created a whole new trajectory for my life.
One of my buddies, Brad Wolf, he's my 75 hard partner. He lives out in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he goes, well, the reason they call them accidents because they're not intentionals.
Exactly, dude. They're definitely not intentionals, man. I wasn't signing up for that accident. There's no doubt about that. But and then, the funny thing is he turned the medical model on its head as well. He was bold enough to share a lot of videos in his office that, it would turn some people away, but he didn't care. He's like, I'm attracting who wants to be here. Right. And so whether it was the dairy industry, the farming industry, the meat industry, whether it was the C-section business, he would air these videos during adjusting hours. And then he would speak about these things at events consistently, at his doctor's reports consistently. And to understand that medical doctors, truly the only tools they have in their pocket are what? Drugs, surgery, more drugs, more surgery. Right? So yes, we had the most amazing emergency healthcare in the world. If we got into a car accident or a kiteboarding accident that may have been a little bit worse, thank God we live in America. But otherwise, I haven't seen a medical doctor in years. I want to say almost 20 years. Yeah.
I think that talking to you about mindset of this doc, I want to talk to you about your mindset a bit. I know that we're both in this group called Men of Iron, and I'm sure you have some core values that you've come up with and some things that really inspire you and drive you, and some things that you stay consistent with. And I think that if you could share your core values with people, I'll share mine too. I think that that's really cool. We can do a little chit chat back and forth and talk core values, and we can talk about your mission statement too, and where you're headed.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, absolutely. And Men of Iron has been a transformative catalyst for me to get my head out of my own ass and quit self-sabotage. So and that it has a lot of power in doing so, right? So My core values are leadership, loyalty, love, service, freedom, and adventure.
Wow. You know, a lot of what you're saying lines up with me. I'm connection,
Yep.
adventure, leadership,
Yep.
freedom,
Yes.
contribution. And the
Yes.
last thing, I was just down in Puerto Rico in April.
Yep.
The last one I added is the sixth one. It's called magic.
Ooh, I like
Because
that.
I felt like nothing really happened in this world without a little bit of magic in it.
Beauty, bro. Love that.
And I love how you've gotten clear with yourself to know that self-sabotage was something that was a real issue. So when you get clear, you don't do the things that you were doing before that didn't give you the power. And
Yep.
I know in the game of Men of Iron, we tried to never leak power. We tried to possess the power and to not like let it leak out of us. And I think that that's really cool that you're clear with. I like the love aspect. I think that that's a really good value.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, it's pretty wild when you think about it, and you're able to actually, because we work so hard at doing so many different things, but like, when have you sat down and really gone through a list of values and said, this is me, this is me, this is me, and this is what I want more of in my life? And when you're able to discover that, life pivots in a beautiful direction, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's
I'm
like,
gonna share with people, Dr. Dean, my personal mission statement. It's the really short one,
let's hear
but
it.
I'm a catalyst for chiropractic. I focus on my guests, stories, brands, and genius.
Love it, dude. Love it.
And when you think about it, when you know who you are, it's easier to get where you're going. And
Absolutely.
being a catalyst for something really matters. And although, I mean, a lot of people are catalysts for their sports teams.
You know, it's so funny. I did a post about that. I hate to segue, but I did a post about that. It's like, there was a funny TikTok where they played like the intro music for an NFL game, right? And wives were filming their husbands, and they would be jetting down the stairs to get in front of the TV. And I'm just like, guys, don't fall victim to this. You know, like, I've never fell victim to, and it kind of created a little bit of an uproar. But I'm like, I'm not a sidelines kind of guy who's just being a cheerleader for other people. Like, I'm out to live life in my fullest capacity and empower others, and not just be a cheerleader, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's so unconscious that so many are cheerleaders, right? It's the great distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, that's great. And I want to get into genius as well, because you keep on bringing that up, and I just love that, like, zone of genius when you say that. But real quick, I'll share my mission statement is, I am a Christian father, doctor, and coach that helps high-level entrepreneurs discover their divine mission in life. And I help them to create a habitual blueprint to capture that, so that we may all experience more peace, love, joy, freedom, and adventure in our lives.
Man, you know, I really believe that the mission is clear for you. And one of the things, when I went out and I did 600 spinal screenings and
Killer, dude.
in 2.5 years. And I worked 28 days a month doing them. And there'd be days I'd wake up and I was just toasted from like 5 straight days or 10 straight days or 12 straight days. And my mantra would be, go forth and serve, go forth and serve, go forth and serve.
Yeah.
And when I found myself to just be a pure servant, everything became easier.
Yes.
Because I quit worrying about if people liked me. I quit worrying about if I was being like acknowledged. I quit worrying about everything.
Yeah.
And worry is the killer of joy. And I think that when we don't, we should focus more, like you said, you're a Christian. I think we should focus more on God. Then we should focus more on worry. So when I found myself to be a servant, it was a very Christian thing, because I was out there to save people's lives from drugs and surgery with chiropractic. And if I didn't tell them the truth about chiropractic, someone else was going to convert them to drugs or surgery. So I had to stand there toe to toe with humanity and let them know that we could help them. And that was a huge revelation for me. So when you talk about what you're up to and this mission that you're on, you're a massive servant, bro.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. And as you said in your core values, like connection, right? Like you're a connector and you're so good at it, obviously, right? Like, I'll be scrolling on social media and it'll be like somebody totally offbeat. And then it's like you messaged on their page or something like that. I'm like, he just knows everybody, man. And so like, I love how interconnected you are. And I'm quickly discovering that one of my core values is intimate connection in a way that is interpersonal and just this little ball of trust where you could just have an intimate one-on-one conversation with somebody, right? And that's you all day.
Well, I appreciate the acknowledgement, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to spin it back to you though. Who's helped you get to where you are today? Maybe mention some of the people that you look up to and that's helped you besides Dr. Dwyer.
Oh man, my Uncle Dave, Dr. Dwyer, my fiance Stephanie has been just a phenomenal support through and through. I mean, ride or die. She's been phenomenal. The biggest driving factor throughout all the trials and tribulations, I'd have to say, are my children. They're the reason why when shit got hard and I wanted to quit, I couldn't. I was doing a lot of that for them so that they could see that anything's possible and so that they could experience freedom at a level that, you deserve in life. Because I didn't get that, my parents were hardcore, blue collar, and it was tough. The level of freedom really wasn't there. They did amazing with what they had, but I would love to create something more. And that's why my daughters and my son they've been the biggest supporters for me.
That's beautiful, man. Becoming Dr. Dad.
Yeah.
That's a big job to play. So
Yeah.
That's really powerful, man. And I do think that a lot of people miss the fact that they want to like edify somebody like, just for lack of better purpose, Einstein, or they want to edify somebody like Gandhi, but they forget the people that are at the home front.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool and special. You recognize your fiance and your kids. So as we wrap this up, we had about 4 minutes left of this conversation today on Chiropractic on Chiro Hustle, episode 420. What's next for you, man? I know that you just passed boards, and there's a lot of like energy built up for going brick and mortar, and instead of click and order. Because you've been doing the online training thing for a bit now too.
Yeah, which has been phenomenal. I'm not letting that go. I find that to be very fulfilling. But yeah, I'll be opening up a practice here locally. I'm in Canton, Georgia. And so I'll be opening up a practice here in the next few weeks. So I'm super pumped about that. But, still doing my online coaching is like paramount right now. That's where my cup is being filled and it's making the wheels go round. So.
Yeah, I think that you always have to look at what matters to you. It was probably about 15 years ago. I read this book, the guy that started the company, Tom Shoes. And his name is Blake McCoskey. And he wrote this book that says, start something that matters. And I really believe that that's the truth about every chiropractor is every chiropractic office that gets upstarted, it is starting something that matters. And I do believe that everybody deserves to at least get checked and adjusted at least once in their life and see if it's the right thing for them. And I am really excited to see your journey of how you go out there and create an empire and take care of people one spine at a time.
Thanks, brother.
And make sure that you're turning people's power back on and teaching them about natural health principles. The whole thing about, you said before we got going, ever since I was 13, I always had my face in like a muscle magazine.
Yeah.
But the thing that people don't know about those guys is they sacrifice a lot to look that way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about people's nervous systems. As people that have healthy nervous systems, they sacrifice a lot to be that way.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, back then it was ego that gave me that desire, right? I remember my 5th birthday blowing out the candles on the cake. I wanted to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was literally my wish. And, when you're a teenager, it's like, hey man, like for the ladies, right? And then when you become a father, and then a leader in the health space, it's like you need to stay healthy forever and ever so that you could lead at the level that you desire, right? Because if you're a level 10 leader, you're only going to lead to a level 9. And so I'm trying to be an 11 all day.
Well, Dr. Dean Peters, it's a real pleasure to catch up with you.
You too, brother.
Full circle. It's really awesome to have you on to episode 420 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you during our interview today that you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I just want to share with the world how amazing you are and how grateful every chiropractor that knows you is for your presence, your voice, and your ability to connect at such a high level and get the truth of chiropractic and true healing out to the world, man. So thank you.
Yeah, man. It's just my duty. It's such a good thing for me to do. It keeps me fired up with life, and it gives me a purpose. And I think that's a part where most people become lame, is they forget that they have a purpose of something greater. And I appreciate the acknowledgement. And if people want to connect with you further, do you have any web resources we can send them to?
Instagram at Health Nut Hero, all one word, at Health Nut Hero, and Dean Peters on Facebook. Just go to James Chester's friend list, and I'll be there.
Cool, brother. Well, I want you to have a great night down there in Atlanta. I just interviewed Kim Gambino. She's down there at Atlanta too. So,
oh, nice.
I had back-to-back Atlanta interviews. So
beauty.
Yeah, man. Keep rocking, brother.
Appreciate you, bro.
Look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you for being a guest on episode 420 of the Chiro Hustle podcast.
Honored to be had as a guest, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. God bless.
Thank you for taking the opportunity. Talk to you soon.
You got it.
All right. Bye. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.